Hello everyone, welcome to Coding Zusu channel. Today's video will be working on a full stack application. So we'll be building a beautiful Kanban board with Node.js, React, and Websockets. And we'll be following this particular article. I'll give this link in the description so you can check them out. Also, there is a GitHub repo to go with this article. I'll link that GitHub repo as well in the description. So let me go ahead and give you kind of like a tour of what we are going to be building. So here is our client, and here would be our API. So let me open up my terminal. I'm using Windows terminal because I'm on a Windows system. If you're on a Mac, you can use your terminal as well for this tutorial. So as you can see here, I'm in eDrive, projects, Kanban, and in a client folder. So my front-end application is hosted in the client folder. So here, all I have to do is say npm run dev. That will start my project on localhost 5173. We are using Vite, unlike the article where they used create React app. We are going to use Vite because that is next generation front-end tooling, much more faster. So we have our client app running on 5173, and I have it here as well. Let's go ahead and start our server as well. Like I said, this is going to be a full stack project, so we will have to start our server separately. So our server is going to be running on 5000 /API will give us the data we want. So this is how I'm going to start it. npm start, simple as that. As you can see here, it is showing listening on 5000. Let me go ahead and refresh the API first. And as you can see, we are getting some mock data that is coming from our Node.js server. And for the client, if we do refresh, as you can see here, this is one instance of the app. So let me show you from the beginning what's happening. And I'm actually going to open up two instances of the app because I want to show you that this app is real time. It has bidirectional communication capabilities. So here I'm going to write coding jutsu and sign in with that name. Here I'm going to sign in with user1. Now this is not like an authentication, it's just very simple. So through user1, let me show you in inspect. And if I go to the DevTool application in local storage, you see that if I click on here, in here, it's actually going to overwrite for this session right here is going to have a user1. So we are basically just saving the name for the purpose. All right, so two instances. I can create a new task like that. You can see that the task appended on this window, but also this window, so it's a real time. I can grab one task and rearrange this because that's what Kanban board is about. We have pending task, onboarding task, and completed task. We can see our comments. We can put a comment. At comment, you see that hello world by user 1. And then here we can see that comment, and here we can see other comments as well. So it's a very simple application, not a lot of code, but it's going to give us the opportunity to dive into Node.js in the backend, and we'll be coding with JavaScript, but also for the front end, we'll be using React. All right. So the prerequisite for this tutorial is that you have to have a basic understanding of JavaScript, React, and how Node.js works. I'll try my best to explain each line that I'm writing in this video. But if you want to learn more, I do have crash courses on both of these topics, React, JavaScript, and Node.js. Link will be in the description. So if you do want to check them out, feel free to do so. All right, so we'll be using Vite, the next generation front-end tooling. I'm going to show you how we can start our React project with that. We are also going to be using this Socket.io, which is a great technology. This is what allows us to have bidirectional communication. You can see this bidirectional and low latency communication for every platform. Usually you will see Socket.io being used in a chat application. They have their get started documentation also showing how you can create a chat application. So we will refer back to this documentation whenever we need to. But here is the tour. Now let's go ahead and create a brand new one. I'm going to go ahead and kill the server, and this is how you do it. You just, if you're on Windows, Control C, which will terminate the server right away. And on this one as well, it's going to ask you this. I'm going to say why. Yes. Okay. So both the server is now terminated. I am going to go ahead and open up a new tab, and I'm going to go to the project folder. So I'm in projects folder in my drive. I have YouTube. If you don't know what CD is, CD stands for change directory. That's how you kind of navigate folder to folder in a terminal. So here I'm going to make a folder, a fresh folder, make dir space Kanban will create a folder, fresh folder for me. Make dir, it stands for make directory. All right. So let's go in that Kanban folder that we just created with CD. And here, since we are going to be working with full stack, we are going to be creating two folders, right? So, and again, make dir, and here we're going to do a client folder. Our front-end React application will host in the client, and make dir again, and this time it's going to be our server folder. So our Node.js application will be inside this server. All right, so let's get started. So let me open up Visual Studio Code, because that's the editor I'm going to be using. It is on my second screen. All right, so here is my Visual Studio Code editor, and you can see that I have two empty folder. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and change the size of the font so you can see things better. And here I'm actually going to go into the server folder. Okay. And in the server folder, I'm going to start installing a Node project. For start Node project, you have to have Node.js installed on your computer. I do have a crash course on there. You can go to nodejs.org and you can download any of the version you like onto your computer. You can actually check it here as well. So if you do node -- version, it should give you a version number. As you can see here, my computer has 16.15. If it doesn't give you a version number, that means you have to install it. So I already have Node.js installed, so I can run this npm init-y. So what's happening? npm init is a command to initialize a Node project in the current folder that I'm in. The -y flag is for this questions. As you can see here, it created a package.json file for me, and it has a bunch of questions. If I didn't have the -y, it would ask me each question separately. So just to make this quick, I use -y. So I have the name, version, these are by default. Okay, now if I go back to my editor, you can see that all I have is a package.json that we just saw on the terminal. So in the server, our entry point is going to be a file that is called index.js. And this is going to be our first Node.js app. So let's log something. And let's run it. How do you run a Node project? All you have to do is say node and then the file that you want to run, right? I just write in and tab, and then it has autocomplete. So if I do this, you see that now something is being console log. So console log on the Node side of things, it's going to be the terminal. All right, browser, you have your dev tools and everything, but for Node, your console log will show up on the terminal. We would need Express server. So let's go ahead and install npm i Express. So this will install the Express. This is a framework, make things really easy to create a web server. We will be using that. we will be using also something called nodeman. All right, let me actually, before I install nodeman, let me actually show you how you can create a server real quick. All right, so we have the Express. So let's bring in Express in our index.js file. We're gonna call this Express is equals to require, which will have Express. Like that. If I press Ctrl B, it's going to get rid of that file. All right, so here we have that. I'm going to initialize this Express app and put it in a variable. So like that. I will also have a port, and this port is going to be 5000. So what is a port? So first thing, we are bringing in Express. Let's go each line. Okay, first we're bringing in Express that just the package that we just imported. Now you might be thinking that why am I using this expose and require syntax instead of like import and export if you are more familiar with React? That's because this is called CommonJS. So this is specific to Node.js, and this is their way of import and export. If you still want to use import and export, there is a way. All you have to do is go to the package.json and add another key property, which is called type. And you can choose here and say module. If you do that, then you'll be able to use import and export on a Node application. I do like the default CommonJS though, so that's why I am not going to put anything here. I'm just going to keep it as it is. So const express require this. We're bringing in express, and then we are initializing this express and then putting it in a variable called app. Now app will have all the functionality from express. Now this is a port. Now your computer has lots of port, right? 5000, 4000, 8080. Usually when I create a server, I usually put it on a 5000 or 8000 or 8080. When you create a web server, it needs to listen, it needs a port to listen from, right? So that's what this port is. Create a route first. So I'm gonna say app.get and slash. Okay, so app.get, these methods, these get methods are like HTTP methods. So if you know what HTTP is, you would know that HTTP has a get method, post method, put, and delete method. That's what your browser does. So when you put an address here, so like it's not going to work right now. So but let me go back to just the 5000. So when I'm putting this address, the browser is actually in the background making a get request to this port 5000. Now we have this port 5000. We're not sending anything, and we didn't even start our server. So that's why it's like can't reach this page. Excuse me if you can hear my cat. So that's what the method is. So what we're saying app.get, I'm telling app on a get request on this path, which is slash, any site. If you go to inspect and you see localhost 5000, and here is expression. You can write expressions on here, live expression. Let me make it bigger. Here, if you just put window.location.path name, you'll see the path name. So the home page always has a path name of slash. I'm saying that on this path, on the home page, it's going to take a callback function. And this callback function has two properties that we have access to. One is the request and one is the response. So request is what is being requested from the browser. And the response is what the response we want to send out. All right, but we want to send something. So let's go ahead and do this. res.send and just send it like a string. Hello from coding jutsu. Right? Let's get. All right, so we are sending it, but our app still not attached with the port. So let's go and attach this. So we need the app again. So we're gonna say app.listen. So this is what I'm telling app. Hey, listen to that port. Okay. Now that's all you need, but I want to pass in another callback function just to console log that the server is indeed running. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in a console log, and I'm going to put in a template string so I can put the variable in there. So server is running on this particular port. Save it. Now, still nothing happens because our server is not running. We have to run this server with, like I said before, node index, tab it over, autocomplete. Now, if I enter, you see the server is running. Now, this console log is coming from this console log. All right, now if I refresh, you see that hello from Coding Jutsu is not right now showing up on localhost 5000. So we created our first server. That's how easy it is. Now let's change it a little bit. Let's do, instead of from Coding Jutsu, let's just do world. Hello world with an exclamation mark. And if I save it, go back, server is still running, you refresh, you see nothing changes, even though you did make a change, the sentence to hello world, nothing changes. That's because every time you make a change on Node.js, you have to kill the server, so Control C to kill it, and then rerun it. So if I press up key on my keyboard, it's going to bring in the last command, and then I can enter. Now it is running again. Now if I refresh, you see that it's now updated. Okay, so this is going to be a pain if I have to each time make a change and then kill the server, run the server again. So make our life easier. What we're gonna use a nodemon package. Now with Node.js 19.2.0, it actually has a beta version of a flag that is /watch. I think that's gonna do that automatically. So it is actually coming in by default, but if you have the Node version that is not 19, anything but 19, you would have to use nodemon package. So let's go ahead and do just that. I'm going to kill the server again, and now I'm going to install npm I short for install nodemon. Okay, I did a mistake, so let's go ahead and check it out, what mistake I did. Let's open up our file, go to package.json. You can see that in dependencies, okay, my app, Node app, dependent on these two things. Well, first, it's dependent on Express. Well, Express doing the heavy lifting for us, so we definitely need Express. But nodemon is only needed for dev work, right? So that's why I'm actually going to uninstall nodemon and reinstall nodemon, but this time with the flag --save-dev. And I'm going to show you how you're going to work nodemon. And now you can see that nodemon is now under dev dependencies. Okay, so let's run it. What we're going to do, we have to put another property here under the scripts. We're going to do start and quotation. We're going to say run this nodemon and index.js file. So if I save this now and go back to our index.js file, now I have to do npm start. Instead of saying node index, I'm going to say npm start. And as you can see, nodemon is now starting, and nodemon is actually watching. So now if I make a change, let's say I delete, or in fact, let's put a bunch of exclamation mark and save this. You see that it's restarted. Our server is already restarted. Now here, if I refresh, now it is showing us the updated version. Okay, so that's why we need nodemon. So that's good. But we need it only for our dev work. We don't need it in production. That's why we had to uninstall and install it as a dev dependency. All right, let's kill our server because we want to install a package, actually two packages we want to install. Well, first of all, we're going to install our socket. So let's go ahead to their documentation and see how they recommend installing. All right, so npm install socket.io. Let's go ahead and copy this, put it here, install. So we have the socket.io. Another package that we need, but I'm going to talk to you about later, which is called course. npm install course. So let's install this right now, but we'll use it later. Okay. So far, so good. Now let's go back to socket. I just want to start put everything about socket on the nodejs, and then we're gonna go to our React application. All right. So we have a really good example here. So to start our socket project in Node, so Express, we already did that. App equals Express, we already did that. They didn't really put the port in there, but we did it. That's fine. So what we would need something else. We would need an HTTP is equals require. Now this is not on like external packages. So far that we installed from npm I, these are all external packages. It's not part of Node. HTTP is part of Node. So when you install Node, HTTP comes with it. Now we're gonna say HTTP, great. And with this HTTP, we are going to create a server. And I'm gonna name this with lowercase server. I'm just copying this server. And what is this server actually gonna do? You're gonna take this HTTP, and HTTP has a method of create server. So we're gonna create a server, and this create server will take in this app, so our Express app. All right, so we are creating a new server, new instance of a server with the HTTP create server, and we are passing our whole Express app here. And now this server is actually going to replace this app. So if we save it, server.listen, let's see if everything's working as before. So npm start, refresh this. Okay, no errors. That means it is working. So again, from the documentation is going to be your best friend. Anytime you want to learn a new technology, go check out their documentation. They will have a lot of examples in there for you. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So you see that they did like server and then capital letter server. So let's go ahead and do the exact same thing. We're gonna bring in this server, but we're gonna bring in from, so we're gonna say require, and that's gonna be from socket.io. So we're gonna this is called destructuring. So we are just getting this server that's coming from socket.io. We're destructuring it here. So here we are going to say const io is equals to new server, and then we're going to pass this small server to this new server. Now this io is our socket.io, okay? And here just before, in fact, just underneath here, we're going to initialize io dot on, and we are going to listen for connection. Okay, what's happening here? Let's get the callback. What's happening here? So we are initializing this io from the instance from the server that is coming from socket.io, and we are passing our Express server into there. And then io here, we are saying io.on, and io.on, you can think of it as like an add event listener, okay? Like a browser. So it is going to listen for something called a connection. And it's going to listen for connection, and it will take a callback function. Inside the callback function, it will come with a socket. And here, all it's going to do is console.log. I think I can just use a user connected. All right, so we have user connected. Now you don't really see it here in the nodejs terminal as of yet, because this is actually listening for the connection. So once we get our socket going on the client side of things, a user is connected would be printed out in our nodejs app. Okay, let's go ahead and kill our server. And now we are going to go to our front end. So clear this. Let me go back to one folder up, which is cd space dot dot. And we are on the parent folder, which is Kanban. And here, if you do ls, it's going to list out all the folders, all the things that's in that folder. You see that client and server, we want to cd into client like this. And if you do Control L, that's a shortcut to clear your terminal. So once you are in the client, now it's time for us to install our Vite application. So let's go to Vite now. Let's take it out there, how they want us to install things. And looks like with npm I can just do npm Vite latest. Let's do that. Project name, actually, you know what, I'm going to Control C again, kill the process, because I'm going to use a template. So let's do this. So here, this is not going to be my view app. This is just a folder that it wants to create. I'm just going to pass in a dot. It means that I want Vite to create whatever it's want to download or want to create inside the current folder that I am. So you can do that with dot. And the template, I don't want to use Vue, but I want to use React. So if I enter, it's going to ask me a little bit questions, what type of project I want. I want a React project. Is it JavaScript or TypeScript? It's going to be JavaScript. And there you go. It wants me to run npm install to install everything, and then npm run dev would open up my project. So let's go ahead and do that. Npm install, I for short, should install everything for me. Okay, and let's do run dev. npm run dev should start. You see that how fast this is? If you have worked with React app, it actually takes a while to start the project. So it is going to be on 5173, the same project, and you see, there you go, our first Vite React. There is a counter as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and kill the server for now, because we want to install some other packages. So we'll be doing in npm install. The first one, we will be doing socket io-client. Okay, socket io client package, and we will be using react-router-dom. They have a newer version, version 6.4, which works a little differently than it used to be. So that's what we're going to use. Okay, so now let's go back to our code. Here it is. Now let's get rid of the server. Now in the client, let's take a look. I don't think I can zoom in the folder, but we have a client, inside client, just like React application. We have the node modules, we have the public folder, we have the source, everything is in the source. Only one difference, actually two differences. Number one is with Create React App, you have what's called index.js and then app.js. So instead of index.js, you are getting main. And in Vite app, everything will be a JSX. All right, so .jsx. All right, cool. And then package.json. And we also have a vite.config file, but we don't have to worry about that. Package.json, look, it's the client. We have the dependency, router DOM. These are the two that we'll be using mostly. Let's go ahead in the source, in the app.jsx. Let's get rid of everything. Yeah, let's get rid of everything here. And just say hello, good old hello world, save it. Don't need state, don't need the logo, don't need this. Okay, let's take a look. Actually, I have it here as well. 2 instances. All right, so refresh. It's not gonna refresh because I killed the server. Now it's going to refresh. And you see that it is nice and centered. Let's go ahead and create components. So the first thing I'm going to do is inside the source folder, components, and inside the component, I'm going to first create login.jsx. I'll create another folder that is called task.jsx. I'll go ahead and create another file that is called comments.jsx. Is ready to go. Now let's go ahead and create something like a boilerplate. I have an extension, so if I do RAFCE, it's going to automatically create this one for me. Let me show you what the extension is. It's a snippet. ES7 plus React Redux React snippets. So if you want to check out, feel free to do so. And within modern React, we don't really need to import React anymore. So all we need to do is login, login, login. Great. Task. Let's do that again. Same thing. Just import something. Just like a boilerplate. Let's do that here as well. Okay. Now let's go to main.js, actually JSX. And let's create our React Router DOM. So in the React Router DOM, it works a little bit differently like before. So here, what they're doing is they're bringing in create browser router, router provider, route, link, all sort of things. So let me go ahead into main.js and then import all this. I don't think I need link here. There you go. I would need all the components. So local imports. I would need import components, login. Shift Alt down arrow will copy this for me 2 more times, and here Control D will select the same word. So the next one was task, and then the second one was comments. Okay, so these are the 3 link I would need. All right, so now I would have to create. So you can take a look at the documentation here. I would have to create a const router. So let's go ahead and do that. Const router is equals to an object, and not an object. It's actually going to be a create browser router that we just imported. It's going to be a function, and this particular function will take in an array. And this array, actually, let's do like this. And this array will be a collection of objects. One object will take path, and this one will be we're basically saying what path, and the next one will be element, login element, so which component we want to render. Okay, so I can Shift Alt and down 2 times more. And this time, the second one is actually going to be task. Task path, I want this one to be task. And then comments, it's going to be a little bit like this. So it's going to have a category /ID. And this is like, when you add like colon, these are like variables. So you will see when we create this, because these are actually coming from the URL itself. Okay, use param is something that we're going to use in our React application that will fill in this. So on comments, what is the category and what is the ID of the comment itself? All right, at the end, what we're going to do is we have to use React router provider. That's what we're going to use. And here in the router provider, going to be a component as well. And here I'm going to say a router is equals to router. And I don't really need the app as of right now. So let's see what's going on. So as you can see here, if I go to / we get the login. If I go to task, we get the task. And if we go to the comments doesn't have anything, so we're not going to worry about this one as of yet. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is that we're going to paste in the pre-built CSS. So I'm going to go ahead and inside this index.css, I'm going to cut everything, and I am going to copy all of the CSS from the GitHub repo and put it right here. As you can see here, nothing fancy, but you can take a look. When we're going to build the element, we just have like some classes and they have some basic styles. Nothing's crazy is actually happening. So we're going to use index.css for pretty much every component. That's CSS. All right, let's go ahead and style the login component. And we have the login component here. So previously, when I show you the preview of the app, I showed you that in the login, when you put in your username, that should save to local storage. So that's what we're gonna work on. So it's going to first need a div. Okay, this div need a class, and we give it a class of login __ container. Inside this, we're gonna use a form with the class name of login form, like that. We don't need action, so we're gonna get rid of that. So we need the class name. We would need the onSubmit function here, and we're just gonna simply call this onSubmit. This is the function that we don't have it yet, but we're gonna create. So we're just mocking up our form right here, and the class name is already is in our CSS, so it's gonna look good. So here I'm gonna create a label with a class name. In fact, no class name. So HTML4 is gonna be username, and here we're gonna say provide a username. Nice. And then after that, we're gonna put the input. And the input is going to be type text. It will have a name of username that needs to match up with the HTML4. We would need an ID, and then we will put HTML input attribute that's called required. That means you have to put something in there. So it has like validation already built in. Put in a button. And then a button is going to be sign in. Now, inside a form, if you have a button, the button automatically is type submit. It's automatically going to submit this form right here. So let's go ahead and create this handle submit function. So we're going to say const handle submit. In fact, I'm going to use good old function declaration here. No reason, just want to use that. So here I'm going to say console.log form submitted. Cool. So yeah, there you go. We have the form, and it looks a little bit nicer than before because we have the CSS already set up. Now, if I click on this, I should have something logging on the console. Don't need this anymore. So you see that if I try to do this, it's going to give me an error. That's coming from the required field that we did. So a bunch of gibberish. There you go. We have form submit for a little bit, but the page is refreshed. That something happens because the browser wants to submit this form somewhere. So it actually does like a get method or post method, like HTTP post method. So we don't need that because we are all controlling that through our JavaScript. So in order for us to prevent the website for refreshing, all we need to do is put in the E, or let's just call it event, right? So this function has access to the event that's firing. When we fire this, you see that let's put the gibberish again. For a tiny fraction of a second, you can see that. So in the event, all you have to say event.prevent default is a built-in method that comes with the event, and that will basically prevent it for the default behavior. So now if I put the same gibberish again, now it doesn't refresh, and we can see form submitted been logging in the console. Great job. Now, what else do we want to do? We don't want to just console log form submitted. We want to console log what has been written here, because we want our user to put in the username in the input. For that, we would need, now usually if you've seen other React video, or you probably been worked in React before, we would have like some sort of on change event that will look for the change, but there is a better way, and that's what we're going to use. So inside of an input HTML element, what we have access to is called ref. So I'm going to call this ref username ref, like that, and you see that all kinds of errors is throwing coming from React Router DOM. That's because it doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and create this. To create this one, we would have to import use ref from React, like that. Okay, and then here we have to initialize this one. This is gonna say const use ref, username ref, use ref, and we can just put null here, initial value, like that. Error went away. Okay, so we have a ref now. So what ref is actually do, it save the element value for us. Okay, so this username ref is now, let's console log that. We don't need the string. Username ref has a property. So this is an object. The username ref is an object. So let's see if I can do this actually. Okay, cool. You see that it's an object, and it has a property of current. And if you expand the current, this is the input with the ID of username. It has a value as well, and the value is the gibberish that I just wrote. That's what I need. So username.ref.current value. So now if I sign in again, you see that gibberish now been logged in the console. So we don't really need a state, we don't really need an on change event or anything. We can use this. Okay, so what do we do with this name? We said that we want to store it in the local storage, so let's just do that. So instead of console logging this, we're going to say local storage dot set item. That's how you set item in local storage. Give it a key, it's a key pair value, like an object, right? We're going to say user ID, like that, and then pass in the value. This is what I want you to save, right? And one more thing. When I am saving this into local storage, you see that this never goes away, right? So I want this one to be empty, and this is how I'm going to do this. I'm going to just take this, put it here, and set this value to an empty string. That would make it go away. So we are not console logging anymore, but we are going to go ahead and take a look at the application. Let me make this thing a little bigger. And now you see that, let's go ahead and delete this from the other. And now let's see user1. If I sign in, you see the user ID user1 is now saved in local storage, and it doesn't have the value disappeared. Let me delete all this garbage. Okay, So far so good for our login page. Now one more thing that we need to do, this is the last thing, is going to be like once I click on sign in, I want it to redirect the page to the task page. So we can actually do that with something called use navigate. So this one is going to be, again, we're going to destructure it. So use navigate, that's coming from React Router DOM. And here we're going to just say navigate equals to use navigate. It's a function as well. Put it in this variable, and here navigate to this page. So task page. Save it. Let's see if it works. We're gonna say user1 sign in. There you go. We are now navigated to the task page. We can go back. All right, cool. I think that's all we need for the login page. Work on the nav page. So we can actually do I have a nav page? I don't think I created a nav page. So let's create another component. And this is actually going to be called nav.jsx again. And in this nav, RAFCE, we don't need this anymore. And the nav will be really, really simple. So we're gonna create a nav element, and here we're gonna just have a h3, and we'll just say Kanban Board. Save it. And now let's go to the task. The task page will have all of our other components. Let's say import nav from nav. Here I'm going to create a fragment. This is like, if you don't put like div or anything, you can just open and closing bracket like that. It's called fragment, React fragment. So here I'm just going to put in our nav. So let's see, user1 sign in. You see that our nav right there. Great. Let's create another component. So for our task container, we'll create that task container.jsx. This is going to be one of our biggest file. So let's get all this down. Okay, before we actually do the task container, let's go ahead and add another component here, and that's actually going to be add task. And that's going to be add text.jsx. I'll create this as well. And in our task, let's bring in everything. So after the nav, we are actually going to have add task. You see that VS Code is auto imported for me. And there you go, we have the task container as well. So in the task here, let me go ahead and import the Socket.io client. Before I do anything else, I'm going to import Socket.io client. And here, I'm going to say const socket is equals to io.connect. Connect, it's a function. And what should it connect? So remember that our API is on localhost 5000. So that's what we're gonna copy paste. And we are actually going to pass this socket to all this component as a prop, because add task and task container both are going to use this connection from socket. All right, so let's go ahead and do that actually. So we're gonna call this, we're gonna call it socket is equals to socket, and let's copy this and paste it right here. Okay, so that's it for now. So we have the connection socket, and then we pass it as a prop. We're going to come back to this. So for add task, what do we need to do? We need to create another form. This add task is the main form, like main to do that you add at the top. So let's go ahead and do this. So we're going to approach it similarly, like we're going to use the ref here as well. And just going to have the form. Don't need the action here. I do need a class name, and that's going to be form input. These are all the classes that's defined in that CSS file. We again need the on submit, and then we're going to call this handle submit as well, because this is the function we're going to define it here. We want the label, and this time the label is actually going to call task. Add task. And we would need an input, the type of text. And what we need a name, which is going to be task. And we need an ID, which will name task. And we would need a class name that is input. And this one will be required as well. And we will use ref. And this time is going to be task ref, like that. And underneath this, we are going to create a button. And this button will have a class. Add to do button, like that. Let's do add task. Okay, so far so good. Let's create the ref. So const task ref is equal to use ref, like that. Let's import that from React at the top, and let's go ahead and write this function. First thing is obviously we'll have access to the event, and event.prevent default, like that. Don't need a label. That's what. Okay. Great. So let's go to the inspect. Go to console. Get rid of all this, and let's see if we can console log. We're gonna do the same exact thing. The task.ref.current.value. Now if I put gibberish, there you go. So, okay, so we have the access to that as well. We also going to just get rid of that once it's done. Okay, so as of right now, just console log this. We're gonna come back to this one because we would have to emit this to the socket IO, right? Okay, it will all make sense in a bit. So next we wanna work on is the whole section. So we are going to work on the task container. So we have the nav, we have the add task. So what we need is a task container. So let's go ahead and do task container JSX. All right, that's what we have. We would need to import use state and from React. Okay, so we need use state and use effect. We also need to import link from React router DOM. So as you can see here, task container is actually getting the socket that we connected. So we are going to, as a prop, we can, and we are destructuring it like that. Good, we'll be using this. And then class name would be, if you do dot and then put the class name and tab, it's going to open up a div for you. It's going to autocomplete that for you. Another div inside this div, and it's going to call pending like that. I want to see the nav. Probably that's why it looks like this. It should have like a background color. So class name is gonna have navbar. So if I save it, there you go. That's what I missed. Okay, so inside the pending wrapper, we will have another class name, which will have pending items. That's a div as well. And inside there, we'll have a p tag. And I'm just going to copy this one from the repo. And underneath this, and this p will actually have a class name. And this is going to be comment. And inside this, now we will use the link that we got from the React router DOM, and we are going to put in two comments or whatever. Basically, we want to, the comment should go to this link that we define here. So comments category. So basically in the task container, when you click on the comment, it should go there. So here, let's do two comments like this. Great. These are just some mock data we are putting. So inside the container, I'll go grab this one. Inside the same thing, but instead of this pending wrapper, I'm going to call this ongoing wrapper, and basically this one will have ongoing. There we go. We have an ongoing, and then let's create another one, and this is going to be, and let's do ongoing task. Let's change this one as well. And then here we're gonna say completed. So here, and we are just gonna say completed tasks. Now this is not really like super responsive or anything like that, because that's actually not the purpose of this video, to show you like CSS and make things really beautiful. It's basically more of the function, how you work, but this is what it is going to look like. This is what we are actually trying to get into. So all right, good. So we have this mock data so far. So our task, we have our navbar, we have our add task component, and we have our task container layout. So let's go to our comments page now, our comments.jsx, and let's kind of work on that. So our comments page, I don't know if you remember, but our comments page also has a form where you can put in some information, add it. You can see information that other user put it. So we are pretty much going to do the same exact thing. Open this. Inside this div, we are going to have a class name, and this is going to be just simply comments underscore container, and we'll have a form with the class name of comment form like this. We don't need the action. We do need on submit, and we're gonna do exact same thing, handle submit like that. And inside the form, we'll have again the label. HTML4 will be comment, we will have an input, type will be text, name would be comment, ID ID would be comment, and let's actually make this a text area instead of an input. Okay, so let's add a placeholder as well, and we're gonna just do type your comments like that. All right, so after the placeholder, we are going to say it is required, just like our input fold, and then we will use our good old ref. We're gonna say it's gonna be in curly braces because it's JavaScript. It's not gonna be in string or anything, and we are going to say comment ref, right? And we will comment ref like that. Use ref. It's gonna auto import that for me. Open this up. Okay, so and now again, function handle submit. Gonna get event, and event at one time everything just becomes like really like repetitive work. And console.log .current .value like this. So let's see if anything happens. So this one is actually now comments. So in order to see this, we'll go to here and then basically create another path and just have comments like this. So if I actually do go to comments, there you go. You can see that type your comments. Now we are missing the button. So let's go ahead and create the button. I'm gonna say add comment, and the button itself will have a class name of comment button like that. There you go. And underneath there will be a section where we are going to show the previous comments, right? So underneath this form, we are going to create another div with a class name of comments underscore section like that. And it will have an h2. We'll say existing comments. Okay, so far so good. We are going to come back to this. Oh, we didn't really test it out. It's always good thing to test it out, even if you know that you just copy pasted some code. There you go, it does work. Great. So let's go back to the task, and now what we're going to try to achieve is drag and drop. In order for us to do that, we would need to, so I think this is our, let's kill the server and install a package, and this is going to be npm install react-beautiful-dnd. This package will help us achieve what we want. Let's go ahead and rerun our server, and now let's go back to our server folder. So before we do that, let's take a look at our console for our front-end application, because we did, if you remember, we did initialize the socket.io client, which is right now is trying to connect to our 5000 server. Now our 5000 server is not really doing much, it's just saying hello world, but it's nonetheless trying to connect to our server. So if I go back to the front-end application here, and if you take a look at our console, you see tons of information in red and error are happening. And most of them are saying connection refused. So if I do go to the network and check something else here, you see that it's saying refer policy strict origin when cross origin. This is known as CORS error. This is a CORS error. Basically, what your browser is trying to do is trying to protect your site from anyone else. Try to connect with your site that has a different domain. Okay, so this is what's happening. So what do we do in this case where your browser itself by default, and you cannot you cannot really do anything in the front end to actually get around this, that is actually trying to protect you. So you have to actually do stuff to your server itself. So in order for us to get around the CORS error and to tell the browser that, hey, this is safe, we would have to install something called CORS. It's a CORS package. All right. In the CORS package, and we would have to do const CORS require and it's going to come from CORS. Okay, so where do we actually use this? We can actually put tell this IO that when you're curating a server that, hey, this is safe. So here it actually going to take another object, and in this object I'm going to say CORS, and this will be another object, and it will have origin, and origin is going to be your address to your front end application. So here, if I inspect and take a look at the network, so let's see what we get here. It's doing a fetch, nothing happening. So you see that there is the request URL. Let's go ahead and try to put this in here and save this. And now let's start. Actually, let's start our server real quick. And now if you refresh, our front end is not running, of course, because I killed it. So let's go ahead and just open up a new terminal, new tab, I mean, and go to where my project is. Okay, so now npm run dev. Okay, refresh. We got our project done. No errors. Nice. So it is actually trying to make the connection via socket, but now I do not have any problem because now the browser actually knows. You see this? If you take a look, access control allow origin, because I am telling from the server that, hey, allow this domain because it's mine. Good stuff. Now let's go ahead and create some dummy data. So this data, we will send it from our server through our socket IO to the front end. And inside this front end, we will be able to show this here. Okay. I'm gonna create the dummy data here. Const task is equals to all this. Dummy data. I'm actually going to copy paste the data. It's going to be an object inside another object. Anyway, so task will have an object, and it has a property that is pending that corresponds with our pending table, or pending. So this one, pending task, ongoing task, and completed task. So for pending, we'll have a title pending. Items will have, now this UID, this is a function that we're going to create right now. It's going to be an error function. It's basically going to randomly create an unique ID of some sort. So we're gonna use, actually it's not match, it's math. So math.random. So math.random, it's a function. It's going to give me a number between 1 and 0, and I would do toString this. 36 now, and I will do substring 2 to 10. Now this will create a random number each time, and this will this ID will get this random number. Okay, so each time, so ID will not like match or anything, so ID will be, so very unique. You can actually, there is an UUID package you can also use. It's up to you, but we're gonna just keep it. So as you can see here, each item, so task has a pending, which corresponds to a table, has a title pending, has some items in there, and there could be 2 or 3 or more tasks. Each task has an ID, each task has a title, and each task has a comments as well. And here, where we are listening to this, let's change this to like slash, just the home. We want to do this API. This is just a convention, just to let you know that slash API is your API route. So I am now going to, instead of send, I'm going to do JSON. And instead of the hello world, now I'm going to just simply send the tasks. I believe it's tasks. I think that's what I call. Okay, so let's go to our 5000 refresh. Cannot get, because you're not using that path anymore. So we are using slash API. And if I enter, now you can see that all the mock data, we have it. All right, now, remember we talked about, because if we go back to our code, and here we did something with the io.on, and it's going to listen for the connection. And in the front end, we did connect it on the task, right? And it's going to give us a socket, and it's going to console log a user connected. So let's see if it actually did. There you go. It actually did. A user is connected because we ran the io.connect on our front end. So this is now, there is like a communication now. We can send data from the server, also get data from the front end with the socket. Let's actually do, because socket actually does give you like an ID. So let's, just to see like there's two users, multiple users. So we're gonna do like socket dot ID. I think that's it. There you go. You see that there's a unique ID right here, and then there's two users connected. That's because we have two apps running. We have one in here and we have one in here. So two users connected. Okay, now it's all about emitting socket event from here, catching it from at the front end emitting stuff, catching it at the server. All right, so let's close this server and go back to our client. And we are going to go specifically in the source and components. Let's do task container. And let's implement that the drag and drop feature, okay? And also what we want to do is, if you remember, we could drag it, like if I drag from the pending task and put it on the ongoing task has a similar color going on, and then once that task goes to completed task, it's all going to be green. That's actually happening because of this dynamic classes. So if I do go to index.css, you will see that the comments, comment or pending, this corresponds to this one, the pending task. In fact, it corresponds to this one right here. So if it's pending, it will have one color. If it's ongoing, then it will have a different color. All right, so we have the React Beautiful DND. Let's go ahead and import that. So we need three things from that. We need drag, from here. That's the first one we need. Drag, drop, context. So they're using React context for this. And then we need droppable, and we need draggable. Okay, so here it's going to be a little bit crazy, but just bear with me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the container, and then underneath the container I will add the drag drop context. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to wrap the entire section, so entire this section right here, within a drag drop context. So I'm going to go ahead and take this entire thing, and if I do Alt up arrow key, it's just going to slot that in. After this, now this drag drop context, we're gonna get a prop. Actually, it's gonna get like a function. So I'm gonna say on drag end, and this is something that we have to create. Like what's gonna happen once, like it's gonna drag it, but at the end, what's gonna happen? So let's just name this function right now. We're gonna come back to it, okay? Handle a drag end. Good. So after this, we need some data that is actually coming from the server. So when we wanna fetch some data from the server, this is what we do. We use effect. We are gonna use state as well. So we are going to first create task, set task. So it's gonna be plural because it's going to be more than one task, and use state like that, and it's just going to be an empty object at first, okay, because that's what we're getting. We are getting an object. Cool. So let's create a state, task and set task, and now let's use effect. So use effect works like this. It will take a callback function like that. What I'm going to do once you're going to fetch some data, it's going to be some sort of fetch. So don't ever do like async here. You can learn more about in React documentation about use effect, but create an async function inside this. So we are going to create const get data, which is going to be an async function. Like this, and I'm just going to do like a try catch block here, and I'm going to say const data is equals to await fetch. What we want to fetch, we want to fetch this. So our localhost 5000/API, and once we get, I want to turn this into and await that. And data.json. I want to turn that into JSON once I get the result back. And await is like it's gonna await for the next result. Okay, so I have that, and oops, here let's do like a console error with error, and then just underneath this, I'm gonna do this. Let's just console log this. Let's just console log the JSON data as of right now. And just outside of the try catch block, I'm going to call this function. Now, use effect does also take another argument at the end. And this is why like it's a dependency array. Okay, so it's going to dependent. So if you don't put anything, like if you just keep it like that, you don't even put like an empty array, this function is going to continuously run, like it's gonna like an infinite loop. So that's what we don't want. We want to put like an empty array. Empty array means it's gonna run at least once, okay? And when it's gonna run? At the beginning of the page. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Once this task container will render, it should fetch this and then get the data and then console log the JSON data. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look what's going on here. Is our client working? So as you can see here in React, handle drag end is not defined. So that's what I actually thought. This function, yeah, let's do this. Just return as of right now, and then refresh this. Now let's go to, oops, didn't mean to do that, inspect, and then do console, refresh it again. Okay, there you go. We have the course error one more time. Okay, got it. I put the course origin, but I never actually use course. As you can see here, it's grayed out. That was the issue. Do like app.use. This is the middleware. Save. Refresh. Boom. There you go. That's what I was missing, because I didn't really use the course, because this course is a middleware. Express actually imports, then you use your middleware, and then you do your rest of your stuff. Okay, so origin is this, great. And then this is actually working. Look at that. The data is actually coming. So we are utilizing our fetch. So try console.error and everything's good. Okay, so once we do this, let's set this, instead of console logging this, what we need to do is set tasks with this JSON. Okay, so once we have this, now task actually has all this, so now we can use it on here. So underneath the drag drop context, we'll open up a curly brace because we want to run some JavaScript, and all we need to do is object.entries, because task is now object, and it can actually map through an object. Map has to be an array, but in order for you to map from an object, is one way is object.entries task, and then you can map, which will do like a task, and then with that task you would do something. So let's go ahead and, instead of like making this like curly brace, make this like a fat arrow, which will make so that we don't have to like return it or anything. The pending wrapper, like that, like this. And we don't really need all the three things, because we are mapping through, and React actually going to render all three of them for us. Once we have that, let's change things a little bit. Well, first of all, our class name will be, instead of like pending, we are actually gonna get this information. Let's make it a little bit dynamic. And before we do that, I actually want to change this to this entire thing is actually going to be within curly braces, because it's JavaScript. And inside here, we want to not pending, but we are actually going to get it from task, the first entry dot title This is what we're going with. The first entry, this is going to be pending, and then the title is also going to be pending, right? First entry to that. There you go. So task1.title, 2 lowercase. It could be a better idea, better way to do these things, but we're just going to go with this. So class is going to take that pending wrapper, task1, title, 2 lowercase, so it's dynamic. So that's good. We need any type of, whenever you are doing a map, you would also have to provide a key. And that key is just simply going to be the title, because those are just three category right there. Okay, and then we have our H3. This is going to be the same thing, task1 title. Let's do that. And we're just going to say tasks. Task here. And then the next one is class name, again, is going to be pending. Actually, it's going to be container. So we're going to just use this entire thing. We're going to do this. So you have the items, And this is the one that we need to have droppable for things, because this needs to be moved. Okay, so all right, so we're gonna do this with the container, and after the container, we will have droppable, the droppable component. Inside the droppable component, we will have a droppable ID, and the droppable ID is actually going to be the title again. And inside here, we are going to create another curly brace, and we're going to create a function that will have provided. This is all coming from the package. So provided empty object. Let's go ahead and create that. Inspect. In fact, let's go ahead and do like a fat arrow. And inside this, I'm going to create a div. Inside that, we're going to create a div. This div will have a ref is equals to provided dot inner ref. It's going to take in all the provided dot droppable props, and then here inside this div, again, another curly brace is going to take in the task one dot actually this time it's actually going to do items dot map, and when I do this, it's going to give me two things. It's going to give me the item, it's going to give me the index. Okay, now here we are going to introduce draggable. Now draggable will have some props as well. It will take key, which will be item.id, because that's the ID that we are passing it through from coming from our server. We're gonna have a draggable ID, which is also going to be item.id, and we'll have an index, which will be index. And inside this draggable, we would have to create, again, another curly braces, another arrow function that will take the provided, and this time we'll create div, and then this div will take the same exact thing like this, the ref, like that. Now it's going to take another, like this one, I'm going to just copy this one more time here, because it's going to take provided.droppable props. Now it's going to take drag handle props like that. And class name, it's going to be similar task at number one dot title to lowercase dash dash items, right? And in here, in our div, we'll have a p tag, which will have our item.title, and we have another p tag, but this time it will have a class name of comment, which will be a link, and this link will go to comments, and then we want to do task one dot title slash item.id. All right, we get link to comments, task1.title, and item ID. This is like, if you remember in our main .js React router link we provided. So this is what that's doing. So inside the link, we're basically gonna check whether there is a comments or not. Like, let's just say comments. If there's a comment, if it has a length or something, it's like a truth value, then we are going to show view comments. If not, then we're gonna add comment. Like, if the comment is already there, then that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so link after p, then div, we got our draggable, we got our droppable. After the draggable, we're going to be doing a provided dot placeholder like that. And after the droppable, I can go ahead and delete everything here. Oops, let's see. There you go. I think this is what I need. There's a lot going on, mainly because let's go to, there are a lot of code. You can check it out, their documentation. But let's take a look. So what we're basically doing is that we are wrapping our entire like result in a draggable drag drop context. We are providing on drag end function, which we will talk about in a moment. Then we are just mapping through. These are just common React stuff because we have a task, that object, that is state. We're just mapping through this. We are creating a div first, kind of like the mock data that we created. We are doing that div, giving a class name. And this is all coming from the task object. And here we are actually doing two lower class, not comma, and wrapper. Key is going to be title because we have only 3 categories, so each title will be unique. So thing to remember, you always have to use a key in a map if you're working with React, and that those keys needs to be unique. And h3, the title. Then another div, and here is lowercase, that's going to be the container. Again, I have mistakenly put comma instead of dot. And then is what we can, where we can actually drop those things. So droppable is another component. It needs a droppable ID that needs to be unique as well. So we're going to use that title. And then in here, we are in the curly braces, we are running some JavaScript. And this is provided, it's also coming from the package. And it's an arrow function. We are creating a div, providing the ref as like provider.innerRef, and getting all the other droppable props. Then we are putting some other curly braces into some JavaScript because we want to map the item, each item as well. So those are draggable as well. Needs a key because we are mapping through it. Needs an ID, needs an index. Inside this, there's another div that is in the items itself. So if I go ahead and save this, at the end, it's view comment and add comment. I'm going to provide all this code in the GitHub resource. Obviously, if it doesn't make sense, definitely go check out their docs. I'll show you that it works because, well, first let me go ahead and create this function, handle drag, and the handle drag will get destination and source. And let's go ahead and console log this. Destination and source, and let's go to our front-end application, refresh this, and yep, we can grab it. And the moment we end the grab end, you see that we do have a destination and a source. Great. Now we would need this. First of all, we want to do some check. We want to say if no destination, If no destination, then return, don't do nothing. Now if destination.index is triple equals source dot index and destination dot droppable, I think droppable ID is equals to source dot droppable ID, then again we want to return, because we don't want to set it like if we are putting this like dragging it but putting it in the same place, don't do nothing. I don't really need to do anything. But if I put this onto a different category, then we have to reshuffle that, we have to do something, right? So in this particular case, we would do this section is to do. This is the section where we are going to work with our socket. All right. Majority of the part is actually done. This was the most difficult one, so I recommend you to check this part task container, see if you can understand. We are actually mapping through quite a bit here inside the map, another map. So if there's a better way, definitely let me know in the comment section. Okay, so once we have, let's now go back to our server and see if we can do anything. Well, first of all, let's start it here. Let's start, instead of like to do, let's remove it. And now we do have, if you take a look, we do have the socket that is connected, right? So here we are actually going to, for the first time, we are going to emit an event, and we are actually going to call this task dragged. This is the event. And I can actually literally send anything with this event. So this is the event my server will listen to, and it will get some information. What information I wanna send? I wanna send the information source. Basically, it's an object. The source is source, and with modern JavaScript, we can just write it just by once, and destination like that. Now I am emitting this one. Let's go ahead and catch it on our server. So inside here, everything that we do is actually going to be here. In fact, I forgot to do something on the io.on, because we are console logging the socket.id when it's connected, but we are not console logging, and we are not doing anything when there is a disconnect first. So we are going to, inside of io.on, we are going to put io.on again, but this time we're gonna listen for disconnect. And we're just gonna simply do disconnect. Disconnect is a method that comes with it. So it's gonna listen for, like, anytime we want the user to disconnect, we can just emit a disconnect event from our front end. And here we're just gonna say user disconnected. All right, great. Now remember that when you created this io.on connection, your every other socket IO thing is actually going to be inside this. All right, never outside, inside all this. So I'm listening for disconnect inside this, and also I'm going to just right now, which I'm emitting the task dragged. I'm going to copy this because I want to listen to this. I want to listen to here. io.on. Actually, this one is not going to be io.on. It's actually going to be socket. The IO is the parent. So my bad. Socket.on. We're going to listen for the task dragged, and it's going to take, it's going to get the data that we are sending, right? Your callback function, and it's going to get the data sent out. So let's go ahead and console log this. Console log the data and see what's going on. User is connected. Cool. For instance, maybe drag this. There you go. When we drag, now source destination is now console logging because server is now catching it. So think about this. What we really want to do is this information are actually coming from this fetch, right? So we are in index, we are sending through our server this mock data, this task, this mock data. So in here, I'm fetching this at the beginning, and I'm setting this to our state. Now, whenever I'm actually moving things around, I'm putting one item in a different category. So first of all, we are actually getting this mock data as is, right? Once we get this, then we rearrange this. When we are rearranging this, we are telling them, hey, we have a source and we have a destination, right? The source and a destination are the categories of the item. Here on the server, we are listening to this and we are reshuffling. We're going to reshuffle the mock data and then send them back to the server so that it can actually re-render and show the new or new reshuffled, rearranged data. Okay, hopefully it makes sense. So here task drag when it's task drag. So what we're going to do in the task drag. So let's go ahead and restructure source and destination, because that's what we send from the data. And let's create an object here. It's called item moved. Get all the data spread out. So I'm creating a new object based on like rearranging. So item moved is going to be new object that will take all the mock data that is. This is the spread operator. And then it's going to simply take the source.droppable ID, which you remember, if you remember, droppable ID was none other than task1 title. So it's just basically changing the title of it. So I'm going to do source.droppable ID, and here I'll go to items and I'm going to do source.index like that. So we're going to change things up. Now we're going to get the tasks, this whole thing basically I'm going to take, and then I will splice it source.index1, get that back. Then I'll do tasks destination. So basically this one is going to be destination dot droppable ID dot items dot splice, and this one will be destination dot index 0 with the moved item. Okay, that's what we're getting. We're moving the item and we're splicing it. We're splicing it through the source of droppable with the source index 1, and then the destination we're again reshuffling and rearranging this one. And now simply we are going to go ahead and emit this. Now this time when we are emitting this, we want to emit everywhere. Everybody that is connected to this connection, we want to emit that. So that's why I'm gonna take the io.sockets plural emit, and then what we want to emit is basically going to emit task, and it's going to give us, I'm going to emit the task. Basically when they changed stuff, we are sending it, we are emitting information event on the server, and then when we are getting the data, the source and the destination, we are reshuffling, rearranging this array with the item moved, and then we are re-emitting to all the connections, so everybody sees things in real time. Another event that's called task. Now we have to catch it. We're gonna catch it with another use effect. It's gonna take a callback function, like this. So here we are simply going to do the socket on. Is that the same? Even listener. It's gonna listen for the task. It's gonna get the data. The same thing that we did in the server. We're doing it here as well. And here we're gonna do the set task with the data, because this is the rearranged one right now. And here it is going to listen for, this is going to have a dependency array, because it's going to listen for the socket. Anytime the socket changes, anytime the socket emits, it should re-render it. All right, let's see what's going on. Let's see, let's refresh this, make it smaller, put things, but I think I have to like, okay, so drag thing works. Now let's work with add task and then just create a new task. Let's see how we're gonna approach that one. So remember that we are only doing like console log, but that's not what we want to do right now. We want to emit. So whenever we are creating, we want to emit that task and then to the server, and then server is going to listen for this, and then server is going to again alter the mock data we have. It's just going to add it to the mock data. Pretty simple once you understand the first few steps. We're just going to redo the same exact thing. So in handle submit, instead of like console log this, we are going to, again, we do have the socket. Actually, no, don't need that. We need the socket from here. Because not in the main, but the task, JSX, add task does have the socket. So here we are going to get the socket, and we're going to emit an event. Let's just do this with create task with this value. All it needs this. So get rid of this console log right now, and let's go back to the index and now listen for this create task. Okay, so we are back on this. We're gonna do the same exact thing. We're gonna do socket.on listen for this event, callback function which will give me the data, and simply what we're gonna do here is it's going to be real easy. It's not going to be like complicated as task dragged or anything like that, because all we are doing, okay, so call new task, because new task has a few other properties. We have an ID, which I will use UID. We do have a title, and that's going to come from the data. We also have a comments. That's initially is just going to be empty. Now, once we structure the information that we get back, now we are going to just get tasks. We are going to add it to, we know this is going to be added to the pending at first, and we're going to get the items from there. Then we'll just push it to that array new task like this. Oops, task like this. Now, once we do this, we have to emit now from the server to the front end that, hey, the task is added, now you should re-render. React should re-render. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to do io.sockets.emit. Now sockets, because I want to emit this to every connection that is established. Okay, and then we'll use tasks and tasks. Same event right here, because we already have in the task container, we're already listening for the task. And the use effect is gonna, the moment is gonna listen for the socket, and an event is gonna rerun this. Okay, that's what we need in for the create task. So the next up, let's work on the comments section, comments.js. Let's do that. Now the comment one, we have to create that use param. We only use the use param because we have to kind of like construct the URL. So let's first, we also want a comment list. So any comments that is already on the item, on the array. So let's get that list, and we will just add it to our state here. Like that. It's going to be an empty array to begin with. We are also going to use const. We are also going to use the category and ID. That's what we're going to destructure. And we are going to use another hook called use params. And use params is actually going to bring in our category and ID from the URL. We already have the comment ref. Great. So we would need the use effect here as well. And the reason for that is because we want to fetch all the comments that there is. So let's do that. We got this. So we're just going to do socket is equal to io.connect. Actually, let's import the socket first. Actually, we're gonna do not like that. Socket io client, io connect, and we want to connect with this URL right here. So now we have socket here. And we want to listen for comments. It will give us the data from this from the server when we do that. And then here simply we're gonna do just do comment list with the data, and it's gonna be just empty. And then handle submit. Let's put the comment now. So we're gonna do socket.emit here, and it's gonna listen for add comment, and we're just gonna construct this. Our comment will be that value, and we'll have a category that we'll get from the URL, which is basically category going to be category, so we can just write category ID, and then user ID is actually going to be from local storage .get item that we saved it at the very beginning, and I believe that was like this. And then once that's good, we are going to set, we are actually going to put this as an empty string. Okay, so comment section is good. So once we submit this comment, this add comment will go to the server. So let's go ahead to the server and add a function that will listen for add comment. So I'm gonna just copy this, put this here, and listen for not this, but listen for this one. Okay, so it's gonna give me data, and let's create task items. Let's get rid of all this task items. Tasks we want to add to. So we also gotta get the category, because we want to add the comment to the exact item, exact category, right? So we're gonna get the task. The category is going to be the name of the category, and then we're going to go to the items. So these are going to be the task items, and then we're simply going to do a for loop. I equals to 0, I is less than task items length if task items dot id is equal to, so we are basically changing in the data dot id, we only want to add it to that comment. And once to do this, we're gonna do task items dot comments, go grab that, then push that and push as an object. As an object, we're gonna do a name. We're gonna have a data.user ID. That's what we send. Text is going to be data.comment, because that's exactly what we are sending. Comment user ID. And the ID will simply be this one. Okay, so once we have that, now we are going to emit socket. This time I don't really have to do like a sockets, because each time they're going to be like comment. If you click it, it's going to be it's going to re-render anyway. So we are going to emit the comments with the data. So which data is going to be? This one is going to be with the comments for that specific item. Okay, and yeah, that's what we actually catching here. Socket.on comments and then data when we get it. So that's why we put this event listener here, because socket.emit comments is going to show up here with this set comment list with the data. So let's use this comment list. Okay, this is where we wanted to use. So if there is a comment list, not sure if it's going to be, sometimes it's going to be an empty array, right? But so that's why I'm going to use this question and dot. If there is, then map it through it. It's going to give you a comment. Create a div with a key. We'll just have a comment.id, and here we're gonna do like a p tag, a span tag, and we'll do some styling to this. So in order to add inline styling in React, you can do double, like first of all, this curly braces is basically saying that, hey, this is JavaScript, so you need to compute this, right? This is JavaScript. And the second object is the object key pair value that we want it to send it as a text for CSS. So this is just the first one is to like computational JavaScript object, like you need to compute this, and the second one is just a regular JavaScript object. So you're gonna say font wait, and because it's all JavaScript, you have to use camel cases. Bold. And then you just use comment.text, and you just use, then we're gonna say by comment.name. All right, let's see how it goes. Create a new task. It does create. View comments though doesn't work. Oh, I did a mistake in here. That's why. So if I go here, fresh, view comments. Let's take a look. Where is the issue? UseEffect is not defined. Okay. Probably in comment section. Oh, of course, because I never. There you go. No error. View comments. There you go. And comment. Boom. Works. All right. So this is it. This is the project. Let me know what you guys think, if you like it or not. Apologize if you have there's a lot of things that I feel like I didn't really explain it better, but the GitHub repo with all the codes are going to be available for you in the description below. Let me know what you think. If you have a questions, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.